We treat time like we own it. We waste hours like we can just get them back. But time is not money. You can't earn more of it. It's slipping through your fingers every second, and most people don't realize it until it's too late. That's why the Stoic doesn't wait for a wake-up call. He lives as if every hour matters, because it does. This isn't about being busy. It's about being intentional. A philosopher knows that how you spend your time is how you spend your life. You can't claim to value your existence while giving your hours away to noise, to gossip, to endless scrolling, to things that don't serve who you want to become. That's not living, that's drifting. Seneca once said, "People are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy." The Stoic treats time like gold, not because it's rare, but because it's sacred. Every moment you spend with intention, with clarity, with presence, that's wealth, that's freedom, and the more you honor your time, the more you honor your life. So in this episode, we'll explore what it really means to use time like a philosopher, with discipline, with purpose, and with the courage to stop wasting what can never be returned. 1. Time is your most precious resource. There's a silent thief that robs you every day, and you let it in without resistance. You don't question it. You don't defend your home from it, because it doesn't knock. It just passes, quietly, invisibly, irreversibly. That thief is time. And unlike other losses in life, there is no refund, no reset, no negotiation. Once it's gone, it's gone. And yet, what do most people do with this sacred currency? They spend it like it's pocket change. They give it away to people they don't even like, to habits they barely notice, to routines they never chose. They wait for one day, as if that day is guaranteed. They speak about the future with such certainty. Someday I'll start. Next year I'll focus. After this settles down, I'll begin. But life doesn't wait for your permission. It doesn't pause until you are ready. It moves, and it does so without mercy. The Stoics knew this better than anyone. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." That sentence should hit like thunder, because it's not time that's lacking. It's how we use it that's the problem. The average person doesn't need more years. They need more clarity, more intention, more presence. When you look at how you spend your time, you're looking directly at your values. If you claim that family is important, but you spend more hours staring at your phone than looking into the eyes of your child, then your actions are the truth, not your words. If you say that health matters, but every day is a new excuse to delay exercise or ignore nutrition, then it's not a time issue. It's a priority issue. Time is not neutral. It's always being shaped by something, either by your choices or your neglect, either by your vision or by your distraction. And every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So the real question is, are you saying yes to what truly matters? Or are you giving your life to the trivial while the essential waits for your attention? This is why the Stoic doesn't waste the morning. He doesn't sleepwalk through routines. He doesn't live on autopilot. He rises with awareness because he knows every day is a page, and that page is either written with intention or scribbled with noise. The Stoic doesn't rush to fill the day. He studies it. He plans it. He owns it. Because he knows that scattered hours create a scattered life, and nothing about that leads to peace. Let's be honest. You've felt this before. You've had entire days vanish without meaning. You've sat in meetings that added nothing to your purpose. You've binged content for hours, chasing a moment of stimulation that only left you emptier. And you've told yourself, tomorrow I'll do better. But tomorrow is not a promise, it's a privilege. Time is the only resource that diminishes with every breath. You can't store it, you can't borrow it, and you can't bargain for more. That's what makes it sacred, and that's what makes wasting it a kind of quiet tragedy. So here's a hard question to ask yourself, one the Stoics asked often. If I died tonight, would today reflect what I value most? Not in a dramatic way, but in a clarifying one, because the way you live your days is the way you live your life. There is no separate grand story being written in the future. It's happening now. In the minutes, you're either guarding or giving away. Start treating time as if it were gold, not just in theory, but in behavior. Start questioning every commitment. Start noticing how you feel after spending time in certain places, with certain people, on certain habits. Start asking, is this nourishing me or numbing me? Is this making me who I want to be, or slowly wasting what I'll never get back? And when in doubt, simplify. The Stoic simplifies not out of laziness, but out of reverence for what matters. He removes the non-essential to make space for the essential. He doesn't try to do everything. He tries to do what's meaningful. And in doing so, he builds a life that isn't just full, but alive. Because when you finally understand that time is your most precious resource, you stop giving it to what's empty, and you start living like it's sacred. 2. Don't trade it for nonsense. It sounds harsh, but it needs to be said plainly. Most of what demands your time today is nonsense. It's noise. It's distraction disguised as duty. And if you're not ruthlessly conscious of how your hours are being spent, your life will quietly become a story written by other people. Your inbox, your feed, your calendar, your ego. But time is too sacred to be spent passively. Every minute you give away is a minute you'll never get back, and the philosopher knows this. That's why he protects his time like his peace, because they're the same thing. Think about it. How often do you check your phone, not because you need to, but because you've been trained to? How many conversations do you engage in just to avoid silence or to avoid looking rude? How many plans do you say yes to out of guilt or habit, knowing deep down they don't align with your priorities, your values, or your well-being? We think the enemy is a lack of time, but it's not. The enemy is a lack of discipline with time. It's the unconscious surrender to trivial obligations and shallow distractions. Stoicism calls for clarity, not in theory, but in behavior. The moment you recognize that time is finite, you also recognize the urgency of treating it with respect. And respect doesn't mean rigidity. It means alignment. It means being honest about what adds depth to your life and what drains it. It means learning to say no, not because you're too busy, but because you're finally clear on what's worth your time. Seneca warned that life becomes meaningless when we fill it with meaningless things. He wasn't being cynical, he was being precise. Life has the potential for great meaning, but only when we stop handing it over to what doesn't matter. It's not that every minute must be filled with productivity or some noble act, but every minute should be chosen for rest, for focus, for reflection, for connection, not wasted by default. The philosopher learns to feel the weight of time, not as a burden, but as a gift. He understands that even leisure can be sacred when it's intentional. A walk in nature, a slow cup of tea, a conversation that truly connects. These are not wasted minutes, but the hour lost to mindless scrolling, the evening spent numbing your mind so you don't have to confront it, those are trades you'll regret, and most people only realize this when it's too late. When they look back and wonder where their life went. This is why the Stoic mindset matters so deeply. It's not about emotionlessness or extreme control. It's about clarity. It's about knowing that your minutes are your message to the world and to yourself. What you spend your time on is what you're telling yourself is important. So if your calendar is filled with busyness, but your soul is empty, that's not just a scheduling issue, that's a values issue. To live like a philosopher is to become a better investor. You no longer invest your time in what brings shallow reward. You no longer chase popularity, trend, or noise. You pursue stillness, mastery, substance, because you know that what you trade your time for, you trade your life for. So ask yourself, what am I giving my time to this week? Who am I giving it to? And does any of that reflect who I truly want to be? And if the answer is no, then change it. You don't owe anyone your life, but you owe yourself a life you can be proud of. 1 minute at a time. 3. Attention is how you spend life. We often think of time as something separate from attention, but in truth, they are two sides of the same coin. Time may be the container of your life, but attention is what fills it. You don't live 24 hours a day. You live the moments you're present for. So if your attention is scattered, hijacked, or numbed, then even if you have time, you're not really living it. You're simply existing while life passes by unnoticed. The Stoics were masters of attention. They didn't believe in merely having time, they believed in inhabiting it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do everything as if it were the last thing you were doing in your life." Why? Because it forces attention. It strips away pretense. When you act as if a moment is final, you bring your full self to it. There is no room for distraction, no space for shallowness, only presence remains. In today's world, attention is currency. That's not a metaphor, it's a business model. Billion-dollar platforms compete every second to capture your focus. They use notifications, algorithms, and infinite scrolls, not just to inform you, but to condition you. And the more fragmented your attention becomes, the easier you are to control. When your attention is pulled in 5 directions, your thoughts become foggy, your emotions become reactive, and your time disappears without meaning. The Stoic response is not to escape technology or reject modern life. It's to reclaim agency over your mind, to remember that attention is a discipline. It's not something you give by accident, it's something you direct with purpose. Every moment you choose to focus, truly focus, you are honoring your time. You are reinforcing that your life is yours. You are deciding to live, not to drift. So ask yourself honestly, where does your attention go when you don't control it? What habits steal your mental clarity? What conversations, content, or people leave you feeling scattered instead of centered? Because those aren't harmless distractions, they are slow leaks of your energy. And enough of those leaks, over enough days, becomes a wasted life. But here's the power you still hold. You can train your attention like a muscle. You can start small, one task at a time, one conversation without your phone nearby, one morning without the internet. You can rebuild your focus not through pressure, but through intention. Like the Stoics, you can turn your attention into a form of meditation, not the kind that demands silence, but the kind that demands presence. Even mundane tasks become meaningful when done with care. Washing dishes, walking, preparing a meal, all of it can be practice in focused attention. And the more you practice, the more you realize life doesn't need to be loud to be valuable. It needs to be felt, fully, clearly, deeply. Because attention is not just about what you look at, it's about what you see. It's not just what you hear, it's what you notice. And in a distracted world, The person who controls their attention controls their reality. So guard your attention, refine it, direct it toward what matters, because time may be slipping through your hands, but your attention decides whether you catch any of it before it's gone. 4. Be ruthless with your minutes. There's a quiet, dangerous myth most people live by, that we have time to spare, that we can afford to waste a few hours here, a few days there, and somehow it'll all work out. But here's the truth the Stoic never forgets. You don't have time. You're borrowing it. Every breath is a withdrawal from an account you don't control. And one day, sooner than you think, the balance will hit zero. So the philosopher becomes ruthless, not in cruelty, but in clarity. He guards his minutes the way a warrior guards a flame in a storm, because once it's gone, no amount of regret can bring it back. That's why he doesn't entertain shallow obligations. He doesn't say yes to every invitation. He doesn't spend his days responding to the urgency of others while neglecting what matters to him. His calendar reflects his values, not his guilt. Being ruthless with time isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming honest. Ask yourself this: if someone asked to borrow an hour of your life every day for the next 10 years, would you say yes? Probably not. But that's exactly what you do when you give your time to things that don't nourish your soul or move you closer to your purpose. You must learn to say no, firmly, without apology. You must cut shallow conversations short. You must remove yourself from empty commitments. You must ask every day, is this worth my life? Because that's what you're trading. Not just minutes, but moments of your only existence. And if you say yes too freely, you'll look up one day and realize that you were generous with everything, except yourself. Seneca once said, "We should not say that a man has lived long because he has white hair and wrinkles. He has not lived long, he has existed long." There's a difference. Existence is easy. Living is not. Living requires choice, courage, ruthlessness, because the world will always pull at you. More tasks, more noise, more demands. And if you don't draw a line, you'll wake up a stranger to your own life. The Stoic doesn't wait until burnout to change. He prevents it by protecting his inner space. He understands that time spent on nonsense is energy lost from what really matters, and there's no refund for wasted energy. He sets boundaries not just with others, but with himself. He doesn't let laziness disguise itself as rest. He doesn't let scrolling disguise itself as connection. He knows when he's drifting, and he pulls himself back with discipline. So here's your test. Look at your last week. Not what you planned, but what actually happened. Where did your time go? Who got it? What got it? And does that pattern reflect a life of purpose or one of quiet submission? To live like a philosopher is to make peace with disappointing others if it means staying loyal to yourself. It's to embrace solitude over shallow company. It's to choose fewer, deeper things over many meaningless ones. And it's to remember, being ruthless with your minutes is the greatest act of self-respect. Because when you start protecting your time like your life depends on it, you'll realize it always did. 5. Time wasted is life lost. There's a kind of loss that's louder than others. You feel it not in moments of chaos, but in the silence that follows. It comes not from what was taken from you, but from what you gave away without realizing it. That's the pain of wasted time. It doesn't leave scars on your skin, but it erodes something far deeper. The story you could have lived, the person you could have become, the peace you could have built. And by the time most people realize it, the moment's already gone. The Stoics didn't measure a life by years, but by use. You could live a short life, deeply present and full of meaning, or you could exist for decades, drifting, distracted, and disconnected. The tragedy isn't death. The tragedy is arriving at death with regrets about how you lived. Seneca warned that most people die without ever living because they spend their days on the non-essential. And what is non-essential? Anything that numbs your awareness. Anything that keeps you so busy with the surface, you forget the depth of your own existence. The problem is, wasted time doesn't feel painful in the moment. It's often disguised as rest, as entertainment, as just a quick break. But true rest replenishes you. True entertainment inspires or reconnects you. Wasted time, on the other hand, leaves you feeling empty. You scroll for hours, then feel more anxious than before. You say you're relaxing, but your mind is cluttered with noise. You think you're escaping, but really, you're just avoiding yourself. And the more you avoid, the more time slips through the cracks. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Every second you waste is a second someone else is using to grow, to heal, to learn, to lead. While you procrastinate, someone else is practicing. While you complain, someone else is committing. And while you're distracted, life keeps moving, with or without your participation. That's not a reason to panic. It's a reason to wake up, because you're not powerless. You still have now. And if you claim now, you can rewrite what comes next. Wasted time is not always about laziness. Sometimes it's about fear. Fear of starting, fear of failing, fear of confronting how far you've drifted. So instead of taking action, we stay busy. We overthink. We daydream. We build futures in our heads instead of in reality. But the Stoic calls us back to the moment, not because it's easy, but because it's real. Because the only place where change can happen is now. The only place where peace is possible is now. And the only place where life is now. So what do? You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop chasing motivation. You start by reclaiming the next hour, 1 hour, fully lived, fully chosen, fully owned. You set a timer. You silence your phone. You do one thing that matters, and then you repeat that process, day after day. That's how you rebuild your time. That's how you rebuild your life. Don't make peace with wasted time. Study it. Learn from it. Forgive yourself, but don't ignore it. Let it sharpen your awareness, not weaken your resolve. Because once you feel the sting of lost time deeply enough, you begin to treat your remaining time like gold. Because in the end, there is no such thing as just a few wasted minutes. There is only life, used or lost, and the Stoic chooses to use it. 6. Reflect daily on how you spend it. You can't change what you don't examine, and you can't master your time if you never pause to ask where it's actually going. The philosopher doesn't wait until the end of the year to evaluate his choices. He reflects daily, not out of guilt, but out of discipline, out of respect, because he knows that the day doesn't just disappear. It becomes part of his life's direction, and every direction, even small, creates momentum for better or worse. Reflection is how we sharpen awareness. It's how we interrupt the autopilot. Most people don't waste their lives in one catastrophic decision. They waste them in small, forgettable habits. The hours lost in meaningless entertainment. The attention sold to opinions that don't matter. The days filled with busyness but empty of intention. But when you reflect daily, you catch those patterns. You expose the blind spots. You confront yourself with honesty. Not to shame yourself, but to steer yourself. Think of it like a compass. The Stoic uses daily reflection as a way to recalibrate. Was I present today? Did I spend my time on what truly matters? Where did I fall into distraction, and why? These questions are not accusations. They are invitations to grow. And in a world that constantly pushes us to react, to chase, to consume. Reflection becomes a radical act of stillness. Seneca wrote, "Each day acquires from the next an addition of loss." He knew that if we don't examine our days, we lose them silently, and with them, we lose the version of ourselves that could have been forged in those moments. Daily reflection, then, is not a luxury. It's a necessity. It's a way to make time visible, to see not just what you did, but who you were. Were you grounded? Were you distracted? Were you kind to yourself? Were you brave enough to do what mattered? You don't need a journal full of pages. You don't need an app or a ritual. You need 5 minutes, in silence, alone, before bed, before the noise. Sit down and ask, was today mine? And if the answer is no, don't panic, don't spiral. Just resolve that tomorrow will be different. Because reflection without action is stagnation. But reflection with intention is power. And the more often you reflect, the more quickly you course correct. You waste less. You notice sooner. You build momentum. You become sharper. And you stop being surprised by your life because you are actively shaping it. You also begin to see that time is not just something to manage. It's something to honor. And honoring time means you don't let it pass without learning from it. Because if time is your most valuable resource, then reflection is how you multiply its value. So take 5 minutes tonight. No excuses. Sit with your day. Ask, answer, and adjust. Do it again tomorrow, and again after that. And over time you'll see, the person who reflects daily becomes the person who lives deliberately. 7. What you schedule reveals your priorities. We often claim to know what matters most to us: our health, our family, our purpose, our peace of mind. But when you open your calendar, the truth is rarely so noble. Your schedule isn't just a list of tasks. It's a mirror. It reflects your real values, not the ones you talk about, but the ones you live. You can say you value discipline, but if your time is ruled by impulse, you don't. You can say you want clarity, but if your day is built around noise, you've chosen distraction. The Stoic doesn't ask what you believe. He asks, how do you spend your minutes? Seneca once warned, "We are tight-fisted with property and money, yet think too little of wasting time, the one thing about which we should all be the most miserly." And it's true. You wouldn't give your house keys to a stranger, but you'll give away hours of your life to meaningless meetings, shallow entertainment, endless scrolling, all without pause. Why? Because most people never learn to see time the way a philosopher does, not as an endless supply, but as a limited sacred currency. And what you choose to spend it on reveals what you're truly building or avoiding. Take a moment to reflect. If someone who had never met you looked only at how you structured your day, no words, no explanations, what would they assume you care about? Would they see time blocked for your physical health? Or would they see hours lost to sitting and reacting? Would they find space carved out for silence, reflection, or connection? Or only rushed commitments and digital distractions? Would they notice a rhythm to your days, or just chaos dressed in productivity? Here's the reality. You can't say you want change while still scheduling for sameness. If your goals aren't in your calendar, they're not goals, they're fantasies. The Stoic doesn't leave his values to chance. He places them into time. He gives them shape through routine, structure, and daily practice. He understands that you become what you do, not what you hope or say or dream, and you only do what you make time for. That's why mastering your schedule is not about maximizing output. It's about aligning your time with your essence. It's a daily declaration of who you are choosing to become. And that choice happens in real minutes, on real days. not just in journal entries or vision boards. Of course, life is unpredictable. Emergencies happen, priorities shift, but those are the exceptions, not the rule. The problem isn't interruption, it's inertia. When you don't claim your time with clarity, others will claim it for you. Their urgency becomes your direction. Their noise becomes your soundtrack. Their needs become your schedule. And one day you wake up exhausted, not from doing too much, but from doing too little of what actually matters. The Stoic solution is quiet but powerful. Structure your time like your life depends on it, because it does. Begin each week with reflection. Ask, what deserves my time, not what demands it? There's a difference. One is urgent, the other is important. Then block space, even if it's small, for what feeds your soul. That could mean scheduling 30 minutes of solitude in the morning, or protecting an hour in the evening for deep focus, or reserving Sundays for complete disconnection and reflection. Whatever matters, it must be seen in your schedule. And once it's there, defend it. Treat it as sacred. Don't apologize for guarding your time. Don't explain your boundaries. A clear no is a complete sentence. A wise schedule is a filter. Not everything gets in. Not everyone has access. Not every request deserves a yes, because every yes you give is a no to something else. And if you keep saying yes to noise, you'll end up saying no to your future. Here's the challenge. Stop scheduling your life around guilt and reaction. Start scheduling around clarity and intention. Imagine your time as a garden. If you don't plant something meaningful, weeds will grow by default. And just like a garden, your time doesn't just need planting, it needs pruning. You must remove what doesn't serve, even if it once did, especially if it now doesn't. So look again at your schedule, not as a list of tasks, but as a map of your becoming. If it feels chaotic, shallow, or misaligned, that's not failure, that's feedback. Use it. Adjust. Start small. And remember, the Stoic doesn't just control how he reacts, he controls what he allows in. He curates his time. He honors it. Because in the end, how you spend your days is how you spend your life. And your life deserves more than leftovers. 8. Spend time as if it were gold. Imagine if every hour of your day came stamped with a price tag, not in dollars, but in life, because that's what it actually costs you. Every minute you spend is a minute you'll never get back. Yet most people treat time like it's infinite, like there's always more tomorrow, more next year, more someday. But the Stoic knows better. He understands that time is not just a measure, it's a resource, rarer and more valuable than anything money can buy. And once it's gone forever. To spend time as if it were gold means to elevate its importance. It means refusing to waste it on people who drain you, conversations that lead nowhere, or routines that make you feel more numb than alive. Just as you wouldn't casually toss a bar of gold into the trash, you don't casually give your time to anything or anyone that doesn't reflect your principles, your growth, or your peace. Every hour is a choice, and that choice is either a deposit into your future or a withdrawal from your potential. There's a deep dignity that comes with this mindset. It's not about being rigid or antisocial. It's about being intentional. It's about recognizing that how you use your time reveals how much you value your life. If you say your dream matters, but you never schedule time for it, that's not a dream, that's a decoration. If you claim you want peace, but your calendar is full of chaos, then your actions are contradicting your desire. You don't need to say what you value. Time already tells the story. The Stoics taught that you must guard your time more fiercely than your possessions. And yet, look around. People will debate endlessly about money, about what car to buy, or how much something costs, but will give away 4 hours to television or gossip or mindless scrolling without a second thought. This isn't about guilt, it's about awareness. Because if you don't treat time with reverence, life becomes accidental. You become reactive, you drift, and you wonder why your days feel hollow, even though you were busy. To spend time like gold, you have to become selective. Not everything deserves your presence. Not every invitation deserves a yes. You have to ask yourself constantly, is this worthy of my hour? Not, can I fit it in? But is it worth it? Is this building something inside me? Is this aligning me with the person I'm becoming? Or is it just filling a void, distracting me from discomfort, giving me the illusion of living while I'm actually avoiding? And the truth is, this kind of awareness is uncomfortable at first, because when you start valuing your time, you'll lose some people, you'll decline events, you'll cancel things that once gave you identity. You'll sit in silence where you used to seek stimulation. But in that space, something powerful emerges, your real life. The life that isn't performed, the one that isn't shaped by obligation or approval, the one that reflects your mind, your heart, your values. And that life is built hour by hour, in the sacred space of your attention. The philosopher doesn't wait for retirement to start living. He doesn't wait for permission to say no. He doesn't wait for burnout to realize something needs to change. He spends his time like it's precious, because he understands that every hour he guards is an hour he owns, and every hour he owns becomes a seed for wisdom, purpose, and fulfillment. So what does this look like practically? It looks like setting boundaries without apology. It looks like carving out time every day for what matters, even if it's small. It looks like choosing silence over noise, depth over distraction, substance over spectacle. It looks like reviewing your day and asking, did I invest this hour or just spend it? Because one day when time runs out, and it will, you won't remember all the tasks you completed or the approvals you chased. You'll remember how you lived. You'll remember the moments you were truly present, the time you guarded, the attention you gave with intention, and the life you shaped by treating your hours like they were gold, because they were. 9. Protect your hours like your peace. Peace isn't found, it's protected. It's not something the world hands you when it decides to be kind. It's something you build hour by hour with discipline, clarity, and fierce intentionality. And that's why your time and your peace are not separate. They are intertwined. Every hour you give to the wrong thing is an hour you subtract from your center. Every minute handed to chaos is a minute stolen from calm. So the Stoic learns to protect his hours not just like they're valuable, but like they are sacred, because within them lives his peace. In the modern world, time theft is subtle. It doesn't always look like disaster or distraction. Sometimes it looks like an obligation you didn't question, a call you didn't want to take, a scroll you told yourself would be quick, a meeting that could have been an email. Slowly, quietly, your day is eaten alive by things you never truly chose. And then you wonder why you feel off, like you lived a day that wasn't really yours. That's the cost of unguarded time, and the price is always your peace. To protect your hours means to become fiercely selective with what enters your day. It means drawing lines that don't need explanation. It means understanding that access to your time is access to your mind. And not everyone, not everything, deserves that access. There's a misconception that saying yes is kind and saying no is cold. But the truth is the opposite. A yes given out of guilt often leads to resentment. A no given out of clarity leads to respect, both from others and from yourself. The philosopher Epictetus put it bluntly, "If a person gave away your body to some passerby, you'd be furious. Yet you hand over your mind to anyone who comes along." What he meant was this: your time is not neutral. Every hour is a mental investment. It leaves a residue. A conversation that drains you doesn't end when it ends. It echoes. A task that pulls you away from purpose creates dissonance. So protecting your time isn't selfish. It's necessary for your clarity, for your creativity, for your ability to live deliberately. Practically speaking, this looks like creating space and defending it. It looks like blocking hours in your day where you are unreachable, where the world doesn't get to invade. It means removing digital leashes, turning off notifications, putting your phone in another room, scheduling silence the way others schedule noise. It means designing your environment so that your attention isn't under siege, because you can't protect your peace if your mind is always open for business. It also means learning to disappoint the right people. You will not protect your hours without friction. Some will not understand. Some will take it personally. That's okay. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It's the presence of alignment. You're not here to be liked by everyone. You're here to be true. And truth requires solitude. It requires space to think, to breathe, to create, to be still. That space isn't a luxury. It's your foundation. So, begin to treat your hours like territory. Guard them like a warrior guards a border, not with aggression, but with unwavering clarity. When someone asks for your time, ask yourself, is this aligned with who I'm becoming? Is this worth the cost to my energy, my focus, my peace? And if it's not, you owe no explanation. A life of depth can't be lived at the mercy of every demand. Because here's the deeper truth. The life you want isn't found in the big moments. It's built in the quiet ones. It's carved out of the hours you protect, not the ones you surrender. Your peace is made of time. And when you defend your hours, you're not just managing a schedule, you're defending your soul. 10. Death is the final deadline. Every day we push things off. We tell ourselves there's time, that we'll start the project when life is less chaotic, that we'll apologize when the moment feels right, that we'll pursue the dream, fix the habit, speak the truth. Someday. But the philosopher doesn't believe in someday. The Stoic lives with the constant awareness that death is not far away, not to frighten himself, but to sharpen his focus, to remind himself of what's real. Because once you fully accept that time is finite, you begin to live. There is no calendar more honest than mortality. You can negotiate a deadline at work. You can reschedule a meeting, but you cannot postpone the end. You don't get to ask for extra years. You don't get to resubmit your life with revisions. When your time is up, it's up. And what you did with your hours will either echo in peace or haunt you with regret. Seneca warned that people are frugal with money, but careless with time. He said, "You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire." We fear pain, failure, embarrassment, but we act like we have forever to course correct. We live like death is a myth, but it isn't. It's the most reliable truth we have, and the Stoic doesn't hide from it. He trains with it. He lets it refine what matters. When you wake up each morning, you are gifted another day. But it's not just a gift, it's a countdown. One fewer sunrise, one fewer chance to show up, one step closer to the final hour. This isn't morbid. This is clarity. It makes your choices feel heavier because they are. It forces you to ask, if this were my last week, would I be doing what I'm doing? If this were my final year, would I keep delaying my dreams? The truth is, you're not guaranteed tomorrow, so why keep living like you are? Living with death in mind doesn't mean panicking or rushing. It means prioritizing. It means having the courage to say, this matters more. It means letting go of petty conflicts, shallow pursuits, and empty busyness. It means speaking the words you've been withholding, giving the forgiveness you've been resisting, writing the thing you keep putting off, building the life you want, not waiting for it to appear. The Stoic asks, what if today were your last full page? What would you fill it with? Distraction, complaints, or meaning? Would you scroll away the hours, or would you slow down and actually live them? Death is the final deadline. You can't avoid it, but you can use it. You can use it to clarify, to deepen, to wake up. You can ask yourself, if my time is short, how should I spend it? Not in fear, but in fire. Not in comfort, but in creation. Not in sleepwalking, but in purpose. And when you begin to live like this, everything changes. Your mornings become sacred. Your routines become meaningful. Your presence becomes intense, not because you're anxious, but because you're awake. You stop caring about opinions that don't matter. You stop wasting time proving yourself. You start moving with urgency, but also with peace, because you're no longer waiting to live. You are living. So remember, the clock is always ticking, but that's not your enemy. It's your invitation to live wisely, to love deeply, to act now, because one day there won't be another sunrise, but today you have it. Don't waste it. You don't control how much time you get, but you do control how well you use it. And that's where the Stoic finds his freedom, not in waiting for perfect conditions, not in complaining about a lack of time, but in mastering the time he does have. Every minute you protect, every distraction you resist, every intention you honor, they shape a life that doesn't just pass. It builds into something meaningful, something real, something deeply your own. The world will always try to pull you away from yourself into urgency, noise, comparison. It will tempt you to live in reaction, to sacrifice your hours for shallow rewards and temporary applause. But you don't have to live that way. You can reclaim your mornings. You can design your days. You can spend your time like a philosopher, not rushing, not hesitating, but choosing with clarity. And if there's one truth that should echo in your mind as this episode ends, let it be this: your time is your life. Not separate from it, equal to it. So whatever you want to change, begin by changing how you use your hours. You don't need to do more. You need to do what matters. Consistently, intentionally, fiercely. Because the Stoic doesn't wait to find meaning at the end. He builds it in the hours between now and then. And so can you. If this episode helped you rethink how you use your time, share it with someone who needs to hear it too. And don't forget to subscribe, because we're building a space here for real growth, real clarity, and real action. 1 day at a time, 1 hour at a time, starting now.